Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. When you hear the word HR, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Hiring, firing, maybe interviews, or office parties? If that's what you thought, you're not alone. In fact, that's exactly how most people think about human resources. But here's something surprising. HR is one of the most misunderstood functions in every organization. Every company has an HR team, every employee interacts with HR, yet very few people actually understand what HR really does. And that's exactly what we're going to change today. By the end of this video, you'll understand what HR is, why companies invest so much in it, how it supports employees and businesses at the same time, and how HR has evolved into one of the most strategic functions in modern organizations. So if you're a student, an aspiring HR professional, a manager, or simply curious about how organizations work, you're in the right place. Let's decode HR. Before we dive in, let me tell you exactly what you'll learn today. We're going to answer 4 very simple, but very important, questions. What exactly is HR? What does HR actually do every day? Why does every company need an HR department? And finally, how did HR transform from handling paperwork to using artificial intelligence? We'll keep everything practical, easy to understand, and full of real-world examples. So let's begin with the most basic question. What is HR? Imagine you're opening a brand new cafe. You have a beautiful location, amazing coffee, expensive machines, but you don't have trained employees. Nobody knows who should do what. There are no work schedules, no salaries, no employment contracts. Would your business survive? Probably not, because a business doesn't run only on products. It runs on people, and that's where HR comes in. Human resources is the function that makes sure a company has the right people, doing the right work, in the right environment, while following company policies and the law. Let's break that down. Having the right people means hiring individuals with the right skills for the right job. Doing the right work means employees clearly understand what's expected from them and receive training to improve. And the right environment means fair salaries, safe workplaces, respect, and equal opportunities. Think of HR as the bridge between employees and the business. It understands what the company needs, and also understands what employees need. Now here's one of the biggest myths. Many people think HR is only responsible for hiring employees or conducting exit interviews. That's actually just one small part of HR's responsibilities. As you'll see in the next section, HR is involved throughout an employee's entire journey in an organization. Now that we know what HR is, let's answer another important question. What does HR actually do every day? Most people only interact with HR during interviews or while leaving a company. So naturally, they think that's all HR does. But here's the reality. HR is involved throughout an employee's entire journey. Think about your own experience. Before you even joined a company, someone had to write the job description, post the vacancy, shortlist candidates, schedule interviews, and send the offer letter. That was HR on your first day. Someone made sure your laptop was ready, your documents were complete, and you knew where to begin. Again, HR as you continue working, HR helps with learning programs, career growth, performance reviews, salary revisions, employee engagement activities, benefits, and recognition. And when an employee decides to leave, HR ensures a smooth exit, proper knowledge transfer, final settlement, and an experience that leaves a positive impression. Notice something interesting. HR doesn't just appear at the beginning or the end. It stays connected with employees throughout their entire journey. That's why we call this the employee lifecycle. And here's something many organizations have realized. A happy employee who leaves the company respectfully often recommends the organization to others or even comes back in the future. So even an employee's exit can become the beginning of someone else's journey. That's why HR thinks long-term. Now here's a question I get asked quite often. Is HR on the employee's side, or the company's side? The answer is neither, and both. Let me explain. HR has 2 equally important responsibilities. The first responsibility is to support employees. That means making sure people receive fair pay, work in a safe environment, have opportunities to learn new skills, and always have someone to approach when they face challenges. The second responsibility is to protect the organization. This includes following labor laws, ensuring company policies are applied fairly, reducing legal risks, and making sure important decisions are properly documented. Now imagine an employee requests a salary increase. The employee naturally wants the highest possible salary. The business has budgets and financial limitations. So what does HR do? HR doesn't simply choose one side. Instead, HR follows a fair process that balances employee expectations with business needs. And that's why HR is often misunderstood. People usually notice HR only when difficult decisions are made. But in reality, HR's biggest responsibility is creating fairness and consistency for everyone. When employees feel supported and organizations remain compliant, everybody wins. Employees grow, businesses perform better, and workplaces become healthier. Now let's travel back in time. Believe it or not, HR didn't always exist the way it does today. More than 100 years ago, factories mainly focused on production. Workers often had long working hours, unsafe conditions, and very little protection. Eventually, companies started appointing welfare officers whose job was simply to look after workers' basic needs. That was the beginning of HR. As businesses became larger, governments introduced labor laws. Companies now needed departments to manage salaries, employee records, attendance, and compliance. This became known as the personnel department. Later, organizations realized something important. People weren't just another business expense. They were one of the company's biggest competitive advantages. That's when personnel evolved into human resources. Instead of simply managing employees, HR started helping businesses build talent, improve performance, and develop future leaders. And today, we're witnessing another major transformation. Artificial intelligence, people analytics, skills-based hiring, automation, predictive workforce planning. Modern HR is becoming more data-driven than ever before. But despite all these technological changes, one thing has remained constant. HR has always been about helping people and helping businesses succeed together. Only the tools have changed. The purpose hasn't. Before we finish, let's quickly recap today's learning. If someone asks you, what does HR actually do? You'll now know the answer. First, HR ensures companies have the right people doing the right work in the right environment. Second, HR supports employees throughout their entire life cycle, from attracting talent all the way to employee exit. Third, HR has two responsibilities at the same time: supporting employees and protecting the organization. Finally, HR has evolved from handling paperwork to becoming one of the most strategic, technology-enabled functions inside modern businesses. And here's one thought I'd like you to remember. Great HR isn't measured by how many policies it creates. It's measured by how well it helps people succeed while helping businesses grow. That's the real purpose of HR. And that's a wrap on today's session. I hope HR feels much simpler now than it did a few minutes ago. This was just the beginning. In this series, we're going to break down every major HR concept into easy-to-understand lessons using real-world examples. So if you're preparing for an HR career, working in HR, managing a team, or simply curious about how organizations work, make sure you subscribe to HR Catalyst. If you learned something new today, hit the like button. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing about HR that has always confused you? Drop your question in the comments, and it might become the topic of our upcoming videos. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next episode of HR Catalyst.